Welcome to LSD. You know, maybe one day we'll do a script, but we're going to freestyle a little. Today we're going to talk about drugs in prison. And it's, I stopped selling LSD because I didn't want to go to prison. And the LSD tip today is, things aren't always what they seem. And so the tip is, you got to be aware of what you're not aware of. And there were a lot of drugs in prison. And I got an excerpt from my book, page 88. I'm going to read about the first and only time that I ever did heroin, which was inside a federal prison, actually a couple times. But, when I arrived in Inglewood, James Irving, Sparky, had the pot connect from the ink factory. Each prison has a unicorn, which is like a federal prison industry where the prisoners can work. And somehow there they were sneaking the marijuana in through the ink that we would order for the print shop, because this place in Englewood, Colorado at the time in the 1990s produced all the paperwork, the blank papers that were used throughout the federal prison system. They had some other contracts with other federal agencies, but for the most part, it was, that's just still, there was at the time, 60, 70 federal prisons. There was a lot of printing, so a lot of ink got ordered. But anyway, someone had a connection at the ink factory that the prison print shop ordered the ink from. So literally, pounds of marijuana were coming in. It's insane. And so I never even had to buy pot while I was there. I sold heroin in Inglewood to have extra money, and I would still use it to buy some of the weed and sell the weed, just to hustle. And like in other prisons, I don't remember how much it was in Inglewood. Sparky would just give me a big handful. But when I got to Florence, Colorado, which was the ADX, the Supermax, penitentiary and medium, I was sent to the medium after Inglewood in Florence. There, a chapstick cap, one little cap from a chapstick was $25, but I could get that and flip it for $125. So the hypocrisy of it all, here I stopped selling drugs, I was indicted for something that happened 2 years prior, lost a federal jury trial, got sent to prison, and there's just rampant drugs everywhere. But when they found me guilty and I went into that holding cell and I masturbated and I told myself I wanted to shoot heroin, I wanted to try it, I wanted to see what it was like, this was it right here. So, I just find it interesting. So here we go. Blaze, you should always wear your hair in a tight ponytail, he said as he entered my cell, nodding toward my loose locks. My hair was at least 12 inches long and it had not been cut since I lost my trial, well over a year ago. If you are ever in a fight, your hair can be a terrible weapon against you. Wow, I never thought of that, Roy. Thanks. You're still pretty green, Joel. He started preparing the shot. Sparky had vouched for me, and his word carried weight. Roy trusted me. Here's a hair tie, he said, tossing one my way. Keep it pulled back even in the showers. Do it now because you don't want to burn your hair. Roy knew someone who had worked in the prison infirmary and was able to get new and fresh needles through his connections. It was pretty easy to get someone to deliver them to him, since everyone who received medication went once in the morning and once in the afternoon. Besides, even if someone wasn't willing to do it for him, It wasn't difficult to get prescribed medication. Most prison doctors were liberal with their prescriptions, at least everywhere except USP Marion. When I first arrived in FCI Sandstone, the doctor who gave me my initial physical said he would prescribe me anything I wanted within reason, and further stated that the prescription would follow me wherever I went for my entire sentence. You're young, you have a lot of time. Don't you want something to take the edge off, he said. Fuck no, I spewed back at him. I need my edge. This is prison. I thanked him and was glad not to oblige the doctor his offer. Love a good Cuban. Roy provided me with a new needle for $50 in commissary. I still cleaned it with bleach and flushed it with tap water a couple of dozen times. There was always a fear of getting the package. When Roy and I grew closer, he shared the names of inmates he knew had the package. The package is having AIDS. I think I discussed that in another video. It was important information to keep in mind just in case of a conflict. Roy's tar heroin was dark brown with very gummy consistency and had a weird sort of harsh, cleaning chemical odor to it. Think paint thinner meets ammonia. We took a nice little pinch, which cost roughly $50, and it therefore called a 50 paper. Put it in a spoon with a little water, squirt it out from the cleaned needle, then slowly heated it up. The smell of the heroin became magnified. I looked out the square window on the solid steel cell door. Sparky was on point and gave the nod. The coast was clear, standing on point in prison jargon for watching for guards. Is prison jargon for watching for guards. If Sparky coughed loudly, it was a signal to stash everything and talk as if nothing was happening. Roy continued heating the spoon with another match and I lit and handed it to him. The concoction of black tar was bubbling up as it was heated and mixed with water. After about 10 seconds, he took a tiny piece of new cotton ball, put it in the liquid, and then drew up the light brown liquid into the needle through the tiny piece of cotton, ensuring proper filtering of contaminants. My veins were very visible, and I did not need to tie my arm off to get the vein to bulge. I squeezed my fist closed for 5 or 6 times while I held my bicep muscle as instructed by Roy. He just barely inserted the needle into the big vein opposite my elbow on my right arm. Slightly pulling back on the needle plunger, I was red in the face, nervous with excitement. As he pulled back the plunger, some of my blood squirted into the needle, showing itself in the clear glass cartridge. My deep red blood mixing with the brown water tar heroin mixture reminded me of a lava lamp, red goo blobbing around the clear liquid. At that point, Roy knew he was in my vein. He pushed the plunger all the way in. Before he had pushed it all the way in, I was already starting to feel warm buzzing and tingling sensation all the way down the back of my neck. My eyes saw and felt like warm snow. My breathing slowed. The tingling went all the way down my back, out to my finger and toe tips, and up to the top of my forehead. My forehead felt so relaxed, like it was sinking right off my face. I was sitting in the bunk. I laid back. Roy reminded me where the garbage can was. Vomiting was almost inevitable. I lay there for 25 minutes. Roy fixed himself a shot. So it was an amazing experience. But you know, at the time, I had some sort of foresight in the sense that I thought to myself, I'm just going to continue to smoke marijuana because I knew if I got physically addicted to this, that, you know, they could run out and it would just be disaster as far as in my mind. And I remember on Dead Tour, the people that would be doing heroin and cocaine and heavily drinking, they couldn't get the really good LSD or would get cut off altogether. So that's shooting heroin in prison. And the other thing with, when I was in Florence selling it, this guy Poncho would get it, and I'd get a gram for 500, cut it up into 50 papers, and have it pre-sold for $1,500 in commissary. And then a couple times, they would run out of there would be dry spells of no heroin, and you'd see guys in the chow lines, and they were just in fucking agony. They looked like walking death. They literally, like a couple times, they would, offer up punks or all kinds of sexual favors to get more, but it was like I was just a middleman. I would get a gram here, a gram there, and they would do anything to get more. So I was wise not to continue to try it and eventually get physically addicted to it. But there still is a lot of drugs in prison. I mean, recently in federal prison, they have busted whole meth labs in state and federal prison. It's, now with drugs becoming legal, it's like there's probably still guys in prison doing the end of a 30-year sentence for having grown weed. The young kids have no idea what we pioneered this shit to get it to where it is today, but it's still far behind. And when they're doing some White House thing, and the PR lady, whatever the hell her name is, and she's talking about we're going to stop the flow of drugs. Portugal was a big leader in legalizing all drugs, but they found that 50%, minimum 50% of adults that are addicted to strong drugs, heroin, meth, or cocaine, had some sort of sexual abuse when they were very young. And so it's not a moral problem. And at the end of the day, it should be people's choice what they do with their head, and all drugs should be legal across the board, all of them. So we can get into that a little bit later. But I'm sober as the day is long, and hence the white clothes. You can save that for another future story too. But prison, besides all the pitfalls of being beaten and raped and having to get clicked up and tattoos and everything else, and I have no tattoos, there still is the drugs. But if you're in there and you're working out and you're sleeping, it does sort of take the edge off. I mean, smoking a big fat joint at the time didn't cause me any problems except maybe getting a dirty UA. And the way we beat the UAs, and Sparky taught me this, is that, and I never got, when you'd get called to the lieutenant's office, they'd come into the unit, they'd say you have 2 hours to piss. And so that would be 2 periods depending upon when they told you. For the movement on the yard is the bell rings, it's like every 55 minutes. And so Sparky and I got called at the same time, and he said, come with me. And he grabbed my hand. He had these jugs, and they were 1 gallon of water. And he started to drink it. He's like, you got to drink this whole gallon of water right now. 1 gallon, 128 ounces. And so I got it down. It probably took 6 or 7 minutes. And he's like, well, you were going to start to pee in about 40 minutes. And he's like, the 6th or 7th time you pee, you go to the lieutenant's office. And it took like 40 minutes, and then like clockwork, every 6 or 7 minutes you're going. And then the 7th time we both went to the lieutenant's office, we filled up the thing, we went right in the office, they make it seem like it's official, they put it in this box like they're gonna send it in. They have the chain of custody and all that. We never got dirty the whole time I was ever in prison, because I always followed that rule unless I hadn't gotten high or done heroin for, weeks before. But when that 7th time it came out, I mean, there was no gravity to it. It was literally like water coming out, and it never failed. So, living spiritual daily, today I don't have to worry about peeing dirty, peeing clean, and really understanding in jail the technique of, just like doing good prison time. And when I'd gotten in trouble in Sandstone, which was the prior prison, that was not the place I wanted to do all the time, because it was just a bunch of rats. It was a low security facility, and having gotten in trouble and sent to Inglewood, as serious and as tough as that prison was, you could do good time. And so today, I have cigars. Every 7, 8, 9 months I might do some red licorice, right? That's the extent, and I don't want to do anything. I'm free today, so I'm free spiritually, I'm free physically. So the LSD tip today is just to be aware of what you're not aware of. And I love you all, and I'll see you next time.